So in the previous lesson, what we were doing is we were doing this thing called an ogive. And so what I want to do today is I want to start with a question where we draw an ogive, and then we start to look at more detailed interpretation questions. But the very first step that we need to do is we need to, in order to draw an ogive, we need to complete a table. And this table has most of what we need, but there is an additional column that we normally add, which I'm going to call the point column, for lack of a, basically the point that we're going to put on our cumulative frequency curve or ogive. So let's just quickly look at the story. Every data has a story. So it says the following table shows the mark obtained by 220 learners in a science examination. Okay, so this is the story of what these students got for their science examination. And so we have a initial table which has the frequencies, and sometimes they can do that, but really we know that we want these frequencies to be in this column over here. And what this is telling us is, for example, 20 students got between 71 and 80, 11 students got between 81 and 90, and 5 students got between 91 and 100. So I want to know what, in order to get the point that is going to go onto my ogive, I clearly have to work out the cumulative frequency column, which I'm going to let you do now. But what are some of the other tricks that I have to remember to get my point? Who would like to help us in the chat or raise your hand? What are some of the important things I need to remember as I go ahead and plot my points here? What's the very first point going to be in this cumulative frequency curve? What are some of the important details? So Rachel, I agree there's going to be a 0, and we're going to get to that now, but just in terms of the actual table that you see here. So Kleko, I agree, there is going to be a 0, which we'll get to now. But if I was looking at this point over here, these first 2 points, what are those going to be? Yes, so we go to the end of the interval. So we look at my interval 1 to 10. What's the last number? It's 10. And then for the second point, it's going to be the cumulative frequency, which is 2. Then for the second point, it would be 20 and then 8. Now, some students have said, what about 0? And you're correct. There will be a point at the very beginning, which basically is at the beginning of the first interval, and it's going to have a cumulative frequency of 0. And so sometimes we could also, well, we're going to add it on the graph later, but we can also add it here. So 0, 0. And that just gets us back to this point over here. So what I want you to do now is I want you to fill out this column. I want you to fill out this column. And then I want you to plot these points on a Cartesian plane like I have here. Now, this is going to take some time. So when you are finished with the table, tell me in the chat, table done. And then when you are done with the ogive, plotting the points, you can tell me ogive done. And that's just so that I know that you are done. However, while we're working on this, I will be looking at the chat to take questions, and I will also be filling out some of the information, but I'm not going to make too much noise. I'm going to let you work mostly independently. Okay, so give me a thumbs up if you've got the instructions. When you're done with the table, you're going to say table done in the chat. When you're done with the ogive, you're going to say ogive done, and then we can get on and do it. Okay, off you go. Let us fill out the table and start plotting our ogive. And then while you do that, I'm just going to go top up my water as well. So just to remind you, how do you get the cumulative frequency? You're just adding the frequency from the next row. So 8 plus 11 is 19. And I would probably use my calculator just to be safe as well. Okay, so your table should be looking something like this. But now we still need to, once we're done with the table, so here's my point 0, 0. The point 10, 2 is going to look like that. And 28 is going to look like that. Okay, so I've just plotted 4 points for you. I'm going to give you a bit more time to do the rest and see what sort of shape you get. So step one is always complete the table, get your cumulative frequencies, and then get your points. And now these points are going on to a Cartesian plane where you have cumulative frequency as the y, and the marks are going to be the x, but your x is always the end of the interval. Now, and if there are any questions, guys and girls, don't be afraid to raise your hands. This should be perfect. Let's have a look. So while we are giving some extra time for students to plot their points, for those who are done with the ogive, when I think about the lines that I'm going to try and connect these points now. Is there anything that we need to remember when we connect these points? What are some of the important, like, how do we connect these points up? Do you have any ideas or things we need to consider when we draw the ogive? Is it, okay, Jenna, I like what you're saying there. It's a curved line, yes. So all the points we've plotted, we added the one extra point to get us back to 0. And now we're going to try and join them. I'm going to choose a slightly thicker pen. I think it will stand out a bit better. Feels like this is gobbling up all my points. Okay. And so I am getting an ogive that starts at 0 on the cumulative frequency, and at the very top, it's 220, and that makes sense to me because there are 220 students in the in this group. I think we still need a little bit more time because I'm not seeing ogive done yet. But for those students who are done, I want you to try and remember what we did in the last lesson, and we're going to try and estimate Q1, or the lower quartile, using this curve. And so I just want you to start on that process of trying to estimate what Q1 is. Now, there is actually a little calculation you need to do first, so maybe you can also share that with me in the chat. But see if you can remember in the last lesson, how did we get an estimate for Q1? So normally with lists of data, it would be easy to just count to the position. But here, the problem is we have grouped data, and so we need to use the ogive to help us. Okay, so Mason, I completely agree. You have to start with the position calculation for Q1. And so in order to get Q1, you're going to have to first calculate its position. So I'm going to let you guys do that, and you can tell me in the chat what the position of Q1 is. Okay, so Rachel has said she thinks the position is 55.25 of Q1. And I think what she did was she said a quarter times n plus 1, where the n would be 220. And Rachel, I agree with you. So you found the position is 55.25 for Q1. How are you going to use that, Rachel, when you use and use the ogive to help you get an estimate for Q1? What do I need to do? You can raise your hand, you can put it in the chat, but I want to know, how do I link Q1 with 55.25, the position? Okay, so I'm assuming that everybody has had enough time, or almost enough time, to do the ogive. What we need to do is we take this 55.25 and we look at exactly, so how we look at the cumulative frequency. So let's go and find position 55.25 approximately on the cumulative frequency column. And we see, what does that position give us in terms of the number here? Now remember, these are marks. So the story is students who got different bands, basically, like between 31 and 40 or 40 and 50. So if I look across 55 and then I look down, it looks to me, okay, my thing isn't it's probably a little bit further across. It's probably, let's have a look. My scale is not fantastic, and so I will be a little bit out here. Let's just go. Oh. It's going to be somewhere around there. So what do you think the estimated value for Q1 is going to be in this particular curve? What's the estimated value going to be? How can we use the ogive and what is it? I think it's just going to be about 44, 45. Yeah, 44 or 45, give or take. Let's go with 44 for this particular question. Yeah. Okay, so now that you have worked out what Q1, an estimate for Q1 is, which is 44, I want you to try and find an estimated value for me for Q2 and for Q3. And all you're going to do is you're going to adapt. So you're going to adapt what you did here. The same idea, you're going to find its position, and then you're going to find Q2 and Q3 using the ogive that we've drawn. So I'll actually show you the whole question. This is what it looks like from here. So we have found out that the lower quartile is approximately 44. I want you guys to work out what is the approximate median and what is the approximate upper quartile. So we're using the ogive to help us get an estimate. If there are any questions, you can ask them in the chat, but I think we all know position is what we're going to use first. Okay, so I agree with Mason that the position of Q2 is 110.5 and the position of Q3 is 165.75. Now, what I need now is I need a way to actually get an estimate for Q2 and Q3 using my drawing. And so I'm going to wait a little bit of time to see what you guys estimate as that. Here's my whole thing. So Q2, 110.5, I think it's going to be about over there. So what are our estimated values for? I'm going to say that's Q2, and this one is Q3. What do we think those values are? So to me, Q2 looks to be, yeah, about 55, 56, somewhere around that. So about 56%. We think about all these, it's all in terms of marks percent. And then Q3, 165.75, that looks to me about 65 or 66%. Let's go with 66%. Okay, so it's actually not so bad to figure out an estimate for Q1, Q2, Q3 using the ogive. I want to extend this idea and ask you to find me now P90. So if I want to know determine what P90 is, we have to first ask ourselves, what does P90 mean? And P90 is the 90th percentile. It's 90% of the way through the data. So just like these other ones, you first have to calculate the position of P90, and then you can get an estimate for it. So I want you to calculate for me the position of P90 using the same logic we've used so far today. And then I want you to give me a value for P90 or an estimate for P90. What do you guys think? So for P90, we go 90 over 100 times n plus 1, which in this case, n was 220. So what is that position going to be? So 198.9 or 199, that's the position of P90. Now, what is my estimated value for P90 going to be? So I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to come across and I'm going to find where 198.9 is. And I'm going to go here. And it looks to me like it's pretty much on, it looks to me like it's pretty much on that. And so what is the value of P90 going to be? P90. You guys are doing well. Yeah. So the value of P90, it looks like it's in 75. So 75% would be P90. Yeah. Okay. So you can see how if I ask you to find me the 90th percentile P90, or if I ask you to find me the 80th percentile, it's still going to be the same logic. You draw a line across from that position, and then you find the mark that goes with that. So give me a thumbs up if you feel like you understand how to calculate various measures through the data, like Q1, Q2, P90. Basically, whatever they ask you, you can find its position, then you find the number. Okay, so this is probably one of the most common types of question. However, there is another type of question, which is phrased slightly differently. So if I say to you, how many students weighed, actually, how many students scored more, or how many students scored between 66% and 75%? So I just want to open the debate for that. So how many students scored between 66 and 75% on this particular exam? So how many students scored between 66% and 75%? So first of all, what is special about 66 and 75? Where have we seen them before in this data set? So this is a different type of question because we're asking about detail in a slightly different way. So what was 60% representative of? Where have we seen it earlier in our question? Do you guys recognize it from being the Q3 or the upper quartile? Q3, yeah. Okay. And what was 75% representative in this data? So I'm sort of Kakleko exposing you to a different type of question. We're going to carry on with this after the break, but I'm just giving you a bit of a warm-up. So would you agree that 75% was P90? Okay. So if you think about what these numbers mean, would you agree that 75% of the way through the data is at Q3 and 90% of the way through the data is at P90? And so there will be 15% of the students who fall between these two. So take a moment to think about that. It's a little bit, maybe this wasn't the best example for me to explain it to you because there's also a percentage going on somewhere else. But do you agree that there are 15% of students who fall between the upper quartile and P90? Give me a thumbs up if that sort of makes sense to you. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you understand that there's 15% of students between those two. Okay, no, I got it a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to pick this up after the break. Okay, so I think it's causing more confusion than clarity. But all I was trying to basically show you is if you know there's 15% of students who are sitting in this range, how many students are there in total in this particular data set? So in this whole data set, there are 220 students in total. And there are 15% of them that are between Q3 and P90. And so indirectly, to answer that question, all you would need to do is find 15% of 220. That said, what has made it appear a little bit more difficult, so it'd be 33 students, what has made it seem a little bit more difficult is the fact that there's percentage on the bottom axis. And so if you are feeling a bit confused, after the break, we'll do another example, and this other type of question will become a bit easier. Okay, so I don't want you to be too worried about that. That was me just kind of riffing it for a second. Okay, so can I have everybody standing on their feet? And Lebo, if you could please encourage our students to just have a little stretch. And then we are going to just let our brains have a little bit of a break.
Please join in on the stretch, guys. Put your cameras on so we can see your lovely faces. Give your mind a break.
Yes. Okay.
Letu is sick today, so I hope you're still stretching the Letu.
Let's stretch it out.
Shout out to Muzi. Come on, guys.
Oh, fantastic. And then once you've had your stretch, I want you to have a go at this puzzle question. Okay, so Leto has said Kylo Ren is 14, which I agree. And I think Luke Skywalker has to also be 14 because they're equal. And so then this is going to be 3. So Loretta, I agree with you. Now, what is the final answer going to be? So Tony agrees with Rachel. I haven't got there yet. Does anybody else agree with Rachel? So a fighter pilot dude will have to be 9. That would have to be 9. So we have 14 plus 3, which is 17, plus 9, which is 26. Yeah. Okay. So I absolutely agree. Rachel, I agree with you. And I agree with Anele, Tanaka in fantastic.
Good job,
Okay.
guys.
Well done. So let's go to a second type of question where you are given the ogive to start with. And I'm going to show you the type of question that I was kind of hinting at now. So if we think through, sometimes in exams, they will give you an ogive to start with, and sometimes they will ask you to draw it. Now, if they ask you to draw it, they often will ask you to find Q1, Q2, Q3, and so on. However, if they give you the ogive already, sometimes the questions are a little bit more detailed and nuanced, kind of like I was hinting at there. So let's just start with this question and see if we can make those questions a bit clearer. So it says the masses of a random sample of 50 boys in grade 11 were recorded. So there are 50 students, boys in grade 11, and their masses were recorded. The cumulative frequency graph represents the masses. So you can see on the vertical cumulative frequency, and then on the horizontal, it seems to indicate that 60 to 70 is the lowest category. So if I was reconstructing like a grouped table, my intervals would be 60 to 70, 70 to 80, 80 to 90, 100 to 110. Wow, there's some big boys here. And then it seems like, that's where we would get up to. Now, the question here says, how many of the boys have a mass between 90 and 100 kilograms? And this is a little bit like the question I just posed now. But what I want to suggest is let's start by asking ourselves, how many boys have a mass of 90 or less? So I'm just going to go from 90 up to here. And I want to ask you, what is in line with 90 if I draw a cross like that? What do you see on the cumulative frequency column? What is that in line with? So I agree. I see students saying that it looks to them like 26. And some of them are saying 27, 28, that's fine, but about 26. Now, what this graph is telling us is that there are, because this is a cumulative frequency, there are 26 students who weigh 90 kilograms or less. Okay, so 26 students who weigh 90 kilograms or less. Let's have a look at 100 now, because the question is asking us about between 90 and 100. So let's just start with 100 and see what happens. 100 kilograms, if I go from 100 to my ogive, and I then come across, what is that going to be in line with on the cumulative frequency column? So it's going to be about 42, 43, somewhere, I'll say 42. And because of the digital scale, we're not perfect here, but it's about 42, give or take. So in terms of answering this question now, they have asked us how many boys had a mass between 90 and 100. You know that there are 26 students who weigh 90 kilograms or less. You know that there are 42 students who weigh 100 kilograms or less. How many students do you think weigh between 90 and 100? So I see Tony has a suggestion. Who else has a suggestion? how many students weigh between 90 and 100? So I think that there are 26 who weigh 90 or less. There are 42 who weigh 100 or less. So it must be the difference between 42 and 26. Or basically the distance over here is going to be how many students weigh between 90 and 100, which is 16. And that was what I was kind of trying to show you in the previous one, but it got a little bit murky because of the percentage mix. But basically, we know that there are 16 students between who weigh between 90 and 100. Okay. I want to ask you now, I'm going to change the question a little bit. I want to know how many students weigh between 90 and 110 kilograms. So I'm kind of making up my own question on the spot. The correct answer for A is 16 students. I want to know how many students weigh between 90 and 110 kilograms. How would we work that out? Get your answers in now. So here's 110. And there are 50 students who weigh 110 kilograms or less. So how many are going to weigh between 90 and 110? Well, it's just going to use the same idea. We're going to say, well, 50 minus 26, and we get not 24 kilograms, it's 24 students. So 24 students. Awesome. Yeah, exactly. And if I said to you, so I'm seeing in the chat 24, so that looks awesome. If I said to you, how many students weigh between 70 and 80 kilograms? Could you work that out for me? How many students weigh between 70 and 80 kilograms using the ogive? Okay, so I think what you're doing is you're going to 70 and you're saying how many students weigh 70 or less? And it looks to me like 6. How many students weigh 80 kilograms or less? And it looks like to me that you're in line with 15. So in order to find how many students weigh between 70 and 80, you're just going to go 15 minus 6, which is 9 students. Okay, so this is getting quite a bit harder, guys. So well done, because you're starting to interpret the intervals. Remember, the intervals are along the horizontal, and then you're going back to the frequencies, which are a count of how many students are involved. And so from what I'm seeing in the chat, I am seeing that this idea of working with intervals is making sense to you. So let's move on to the second question. I want you to estimate the median mass of the set of boys, and I want you to try and do it by yourself and just give me an answer. So you're going to use the ogive, and you're going to try and find an estimate for the median mass of the boys, or Q2. Basically, find me Q2. I'll get rid of some of these lines. So, yep, you have to find the position first. So if you want to find an estimate for the median, you have to find the position first. So that's step 1. what is Q2 going to be? So when we're given a position, we're going to go looking on the vertical axis for 25.5, which is over here. And we want to know what the position is, 25.5, so we found it. We go to the vertical. But now we have to go here, give or take. And so it looks to me like it's about 80, about 88 or 89, give or take on this thing. So you can see this is going to be Q2 is going to be here, and we should be getting around 88 or 89 kilograms. There is a tolerance when we mark this, and normally we would give you, if you've given a good printed copy and you've got your ruler, you can see this. Okay, so 88 or 89. Awesome. Now, while we're doing this, I would like you, before we move on to question C, I want you to work out what is an estimate for P90? I want you to find me the 90th percentile for this group of grade 11 boys. What is P90 for this particular group? So Stephanie, I don't think it's 465. You first find the percentage. So you need to find the position of P90 first before you can find what P90 is. Aha. So that would be 51, huh? So what do we get? Position 0.9 times 51. So your position should be 45.9. Now, what is the value then? What is the value of P90 going to be? So I find 45.9. It's going to be about here. What's that going to be? So it's going to be at the 46th position. The 46th position is going to go, give or take, it's definitely over 100. It looks to me about 104 kilograms. So what does that, 102, 103 are also within the range. So when I asked you to calculate P90, what that means is 90% of the students weigh less than 104 kilograms, and only 10% of the students weigh more than 104. Okay, so that's what, when you're doing that calculation, that's what it means. When you calculated Q2 was 88 or 89, that's saying 50% of the students weighed less than 88 or 89, 50% of the students weighed more than 88 or 89. And just thinking about this logically, this must be a very big group, because that's not your normal mass for a grade 11 boy, not that I'm aware of. So, but even doesn't really matter. That's what the story says for now. But yeah. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you. Oh, Kakleko said, so you once said in percentiles we round off to the nearest whole number. Do we do the same in ogive curves? We do. So in the sense that we got 45.9, the nearest one would be the 46th position. So you're right, it's the 46th position. The only reason I didn't worry about it too much is that when we're estimating using the curve, it's not perfect. So as long as I was near 46, essentially I would get my estimate to be approximately correct. But you're right. If we're following the strict letter of the law, with percentiles, it's the 46th position. over here. And so there might be a slight variation there, but for the most part, the accuracy of the scale will that'll come out in the wash. Okay, let's do C. How many boys had a mass less than 80 kilograms? How many boys had a mass less than 80 kilograms? Where would we need to go on our graph? So 80 goes to here. How many boys had a mass less than 80 kilograms? Piece of cake, guys. You are smashing this. It's just going to be not 15 kilograms. It's going to be 15 students. Oops. 15 students. Yeah. Oops. Well done. Well done. You guys are getting really,
Great
really
work,
good.
guys.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's any type of other question that I could ask you about this. Could we have a little bit of time left? Okay, I'll say to you this. This is one other question that I have seen before. This is the final question of today. What percentage of students weighed, so again, I don't want to confuse you at the end here, but what percentage of students, I'll write it out. What percentage of students weighed between let's go 70 and 80 kilograms. So what percentage of students weighed between 70 and 80 kilograms? Now, the hint I'll give you is in total, in this group, there are 50 students. Okay, so that's my hint. What percentage of students weighed between 70 and 80 kilograms? And that'll be my final question for the day. I'm really taking it up a notch here. Like, what percentage of students weighed between 70 and 80 kilograms? And we know there are 50 students in total. I want to know, or I'd love a question in the chat.
Turning up the heat a bit.
Yeah. So I would look at how many students weighed 70 or less, how many students weighed 80 or less, and then go with that guideline. And then ask yourself, how do I connect it to percentage? So 70 was in line with 6, and 80 was in line with 15. So how many students weighed between 70 and 80? The number of students would be 15 minus 6, which is 9. But I want to know what percentage of students. So I want to know that as an expression of the whole. Now, what is the whole? The whole is 50. So what percentage is 9 out of 50? So to get that 9 out of 50 should just be 18%. So you could, 18% of students weighed between 70 and 80. And you could see how you could do a similar calculation for any range. You know, if you wanted to change that range to 70 to 100, you would use the same basic logic. Guys, the fact that you got that is very impressive. So I just want to say, well done. We really have gone into quite a lot of detail now about interpreting ogives today. And so I hope you feel good about yourselves. Okay. Lebo, if you could please put the link to the quiz in the chat now. And then if there are any other final questions, now is a great time to ask. Otherwise, yeah, you can go off and do the quiz. And yeah, well done, guys. That was definitely taking it up a notch. Okay, so Bonga's asked, so how did you get the median? Okay, so Bonga, in this question, if I wanted to find the median, I first have to calculate the position of the median. So the position of the median Q2, we would find using the formula 1/2 times n plus 1. And in this case, n is 50. So we would get position 25.5. Cheers, guys. Enjoy the quiz. Position 25.5 would be about here with the red dot. And so I draw a line across and I get to my ogive. And then when I get to that point, I go straight down. And what you see is that that is an estimate of Q2. And what number is that? It's about 88 kilograms. All right. So I hope that helps a little bit. Bye, Stephanie. Bye, Ntombi. Cheers, everyone.
Mr.
Thanks.
Yes?
Yeah.
Sorry, can you quickly take a question from Bokang?
Yes. Hi, Bokang.
Afternoon, sir.
Hey.
I wanted to ask, because I'm writing a math test on Monday.
Okay.
Have you guys covered the financial maths?
So
topic?
if you look on, we haven't done it in grade 11, but there are grade 12 basic financial maths things, and also in grade 10 as well. So I think have a look on the website. We haven't done financial maths in grade 11 this year yet. But there may be some work in the other grades that you can have a look at.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Any other final questions? Okay. How do you calculate Q3? So in this particular graph, Sarah, if I wanted Q3, I would calculate the position of Q3 first. So same formula as before. Position Q3 is going to be 3/4 times n plus 1. The n is still 50. So what am I going to get? My position is going to be 51. So 38.25. Now that's my position. So I go to 38.25 on the vertical. So 38.25. So that's 36, 37, 38. So it's going to be about there. And then I go down from there. And what is that going to be approximately? Oopsie daisy, made that go away. So 92, 94, 96, 97. So about 97. So Q3 would be approximately 97 kilograms. And that's basically saying 75% of students would be 97 kilograms or less. 25% of students would be greater than 97. Okay. Jenna, what does position of P90? So the position of P90 is just basically calculating the position of the 90th percentile. And just like all these values that we're calculating, when we do the position of P90, so I just go position P90, 90 over 100 times n plus 1. And in this case, n is 50. And so the position of P90 would be 45.9. So basically, it's essentially 46th position. So then I go to 46, 46th position over here, go across, drop this down, and I should get about 104 for P90, approximately. Okay, so I hope that is helpful.